The needle plunged into Tia Morrison's fingertip before she could flinch. Blood welled up bright red against her brown skin, and the lawyer, a woman with silver hair and eyes like flint, pressed her thumb onto the contract's final page. The crimson print bloomed beside three others already dried to rust. "It's done," the lawyer said, snapping her briefcase shut. "The funds transfer to your father's account in 60 seconds. You belong to the Kong family now." Tia's hand trembled as she pulled it back. The penthouse suite stretched around her like a gilded cage, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing souls, glittering skyline 20 stories below. Somewhere in a Houston hospital, her father lay dying, cancer eating through his lungs while medical bills devoured their family's future. Her mother's last text still burned on her phone. "They're talking about stopping treatment. We're out of options." That was 4 hours ago, before the black Mercedes arrived at her apartment, before the flight on a private jet, before this moment where she'd signed away her life to 3 men she'd never met. The door opened, Tia's breath caught. They entered like a force of nature, 3 identical faces, but she could already sense the differences. The first one moved with predatory confidence, his tailored black suit fitting his gym-toned frame perfectly. His eyes found hers with unsettling intensity. The second followed with quieter grace, observing everything, calculating. The third smiled, and it was the only warmth in the room. "Miss Morrison," the first one's voice was deep, commanding. "I'm Miho Kong. These are my brothers Jywin and Hyanu. Welcome to your new home. If you're intrigued by what happens next, hit that subscribe button now. This story gets intense and you won't want to miss a single moment." Tia's voice came out smaller than she intended. "The contract said I'd have time to adjust." "Yes." Miho crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping just inside her personal space. He was tall, maybe 6'2", and the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something darker, gunpowder maybe, or violence barely contained. "But there are terms you need to understand, tonight." Her heart hammered. "I read every page. I know what I agreed to." "Do you?" Jywin spoke for the first time, his voice softer but no less dangerous. He moved to the bar, pouring amber liquid into 4 glasses. "You know the words, but words and reality are different things, Tia. May I call you Tia?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. Hyanu approached from her left, completing a triangle that boxed her in without touching her. "You're terrified," he said gently. "That's smart. Fear means you understand the stakes, but we're not monsters despite what you might think." "You're the Korean Mafia," Tia said, forcing strength into her words. "You run protection rackets, illegal gambling, smuggling operations across 3 countries. I did my research after your people contacted me, so forgive me if I don't feel reassured." Miho's lips curved slightly. "Good, you're not stupid. That makes this easier." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, then 2 more. "We have something for you, for all of us actually." The boxes opened in sequence. 4 rings gleamed against black silk platinum bands, each engraved with a different symbol. Miho held up the first. "Strength, my responsibility as the eldest." Jywin showed the second. "Wisdom, I negotiate, I strategize." Hyanu presented the third, and his smile softened. "Heart, because power without humanity makes us the monsters we hunt." Tia stared at the 4th ring in Miho's palm. "And that one?" "Home." Miho's dark eyes locked onto hers. "That's you, Tia. You're not just a contract or a debt solution, you're our anchor, the center that holds us together in a world that wants to tear us apart." "That's poetic," Tia said, her voice sharp with fear-driven sarcasm. "But the contract was clear about what you expect from me. Consummation within 1 week, medical verification, all to satisfy your grandmother's demands for a virgin bride and legitimate heirs. Don't dress it up as romance." The temperature in the room dropped. Jywin set down his glass with careful precision. "You think we want this? The medical examination, the timeline, the pressure, that's Grandmother Kong's world, not ours. We're bound by it just like you." "Except you're not the ones being examined like livestock," Tia shot back. "You're not the ones who have to." Her voice cracked. She wouldn't cry, not in front of them. Hyanu stepped closer, and this time she didn't retreat. "You're right," he said quietly. "The contract is barbaric. It's also the only way Grandmother would release the funds your father needs. She's traditional, ruthless, and she holds the family's fortune like a weapon. We've learned to work within her rules to survive." "Then change the rules," Tia whispered. Miho's expression shifted, something raw flickering behind his controlled exterior. "We're trying, starting now, starting with you." He held out the home ring, and Tia saw her reflection distorted in its polished surface. "Put it on." Miho's command was soft but absolute. Not because the contract demands it, because you're choosing to trust us even when everything in you screams to run. Tia's hand shook as she reached for the ring. The metal was warm from his palm, heavier than she expected. She slid it onto her right ring finger, a deliberate choice, not the left hand reserved for love marriages. Trust has to be earned, she said. You have 6 days. Then we start earning it now. Jywin moved to the dining table where covered dishes waited. You haven't eaten since Houston. Sit, we talk while you eat. The food was Korean: bulgogi, kimchi, steamed rice, and banchan in delicate porcelain bowls. Tia's stomach betrayed her with a loud growl despite her fear. She sat and the brothers took positions around the table, close enough to talk but far enough to let her breathe. Hyanu served her personally, his movements careful and unthreatening. Our mother used to say that breaking bread together is the first act of family, he said. She died when we were 15, murdered by a rival family who wanted to send our father a message. Tia's chopsticks froze halfway to her mouth. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry yet, Miho said darkly. You haven't heard what we did about it. Jywin leaned back, swirling his drink. It took us 8 years, 8 years of hunting, planning, dismantling their empire piece by piece. We were patient, methodical, and when we finally found the men responsible, we made sure they understood exactly what they'd taken from us. The bulgogi turned to ash in Tia's mouth. You killed them. Yes, Miho's voice held no apology. All 17 of them, their lieutenant, their soldiers, their accountant who laundered the blood money, we erased them so thoroughly that other families still whisper about it as a warning. Tia set down her chopsticks, nausea rising. You're telling me this, why? To scare me, to show me what happens if I betray you? No, Hyanu's voice cut through her panic. We're telling you because you need to understand who we are, what we're capable of, what we've done and what we'll do to protect what's ours. And you're ours now, Tia. That means no one touches you, ever. That's not comforting, Tia whispered. That's terrifying. Jywin studied her with those calculating eyes. Good, because the world we live in is terrifying. The Choi family would slit your throat just to hurt us. The Park Syndicate would kidnap you for ransom. The Russian Bratva would use you as leverage in negotiations. You signed a contract that put a target on your back, and the only thing standing between you and that violence is us. Tia's mind raced. She thought of her father, his labored breathing over their last video call, her mother's exhausted face. She thought of her younger brother, still in college, still innocent. They were safe now, the contract money had guaranteed that, but what had she become to secure it? I need air, she said, standing abruptly. I need to think. Miho rose with her. The balcony, but Tia... He caught her wrist gently, his thumb pressing against her racing pulse. Don't think about running. There's nowhere in Seoul we can't find you, and breaking the contract means your father's treatment stops immediately. Grandmother Kong's lawyers made that very clear. She yanked her hand free. I'm not running, I need a minute. The balcony was cold, November wind cutting through her thin sweater. Seoul sprawled below, millions of lights in the darkness, millions of people living normal lives. Tia gripped the railing and let herself shake, let herself feel the enormity of what she'd done. The door opened behind her. Hyanu stepped out carrying a blanket. You'll freeze, he said, draping it over her shoulders. And we can't have our wife catching pneumonia before grandmother even meets you. Wife, the word tasted foreign. I'm married to all 3 of you, how is that even legal? It's not officially. Hyanu leaned against the railing beside her, careful not to crowd. Legally, you're married to Miho, but in the family, in the organization, you're bound to all of us. It's an old tradition, keeping power consolidated, preventing succession disputes. Grandmother Kong takes tradition very seriously. And the consummation clause. Hyanu's jaw tightened. Also her demand. She wants legitimate heirs, wants to ensure you came to this marriage untouched, wants everything documented and verified. It's medieval and degrading, and if we could change it, we would. But you can't, Tia's voice was hollow. Not without losing everything. The family, the business, our position. Grandmother holds the keys to the kingdom, and she'll only hand them over when we've proven we can produce the next generation. He turned to face her fully. But here's what we can do, we can give you a choice within the constraint. You set the pace, you say when and how, you tell us your boundaries, and we respect them absolutely. And if I say never, then we figure something else out. His voice was firm. We're not rapists, Tia, we're criminals, yes, killers, absolutely, but we have lines we don't cross and forcing you is beyond every line we've drawn. Tia studied his face, searching for the lie, but his eyes held steady and something in her chest loosened slightly. 1 week isn't much of a choice. No, Hyanu admitted. It's not, but it's more than grandmother intended to give you. She wanted it done tonight immediately while you were still disoriented and compliant. We fought her for the grace period. This is the compromise. Some compromise, Tia muttered, but she felt something shift. They could have taken what the contract promised. They hadn't. That had to mean something. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling me which brother you trust most so far. Miho's strength, Jywin's strategy, or Hyanu's heart. Come back inside, Hyanu said softly. There's something else you need to know, something we've never told anyone outside the family. Back in the penthouse, the brothers had rearranged themselves. They sat together on the long leather sofa, a unified front, and Tia recognized the body language immediately. Whatever came next was important. She took the chair across from them, the blanket still wrapped around her shoulders like armor. Miho spoke first, and his voice had changed. The command was gone, replaced by something raw and haunted. You asked why grandmother calls us monsters. Why does she demand heirs and redemption? There's a reason, and you deserve to know it before this goes any further. Tia's stomach nodded. What did you do? Jywin's hands clasped together, knuckles white. 12 years ago, we were 21, young, arrogant, eager to prove ourselves in the organization. Our father gave us our first major assignment: eliminate a Choi family lieutenant who'd been skimming from joint operations. Simple hit, clean execution. Except it wasn't clean, Hyanu continued, his voice thick. We planted a bomb in his car, timed detonation supposed to go off when he was alone on his route home, but we made a mistake, one stupid, careless mistake in our calculations. Miho's jaw clenched. The detonation triggered 4 minutes early. He was parked outside a daycare center picking up his daughter. The explosion didn't just kill him. The words hung in the air like smoke. Tia felt ice spread through her veins. How many? 32 children, Jywin said, each word like broken glass. Ages 3 to 5, 15 staff members. The building collapsed. Some died instantly. Others were trapped in the rubble for hours, and we had to watch the news coverage knowing what we'd done, unable to help without exposing ourselves. Tia couldn't breathe, the room tilted. You killed children, Bobbies. Yes, Miho's voice cracked. We killed them, not intentionally, not deliberately, but they're just as dead. Their blood is on our hands and nothing we do will ever wash it clean. Hyanu leaned forward, his eyes red. Grandmother Kong saw the aftermath. She went to the funerals, all 47 of them. She looked at those tiny coffins and then she looked at us and she said we were monsters, demons wearing her grandson's faces. She cut us off, exiled us from the family for 3 years, said we could only return if we proved we could create life instead of destroying it, if we could build something worth redeeming our souls. That's why the heir demands, Tia whispered. She wants you to create the lives you took. It's impossible, Jywin said flatly. 47 lives lost can't be balanced by 1 heir or 10, but grandmother believes in cosmic justice, in karmic debt. She thinks if we can build a family, raise children who grow up to be better than us, maybe we can start to atone. Tia stood abruptly, the blanket falling away. And I'm supposed to be part of that. Birth your redemption, Bobbies, absolve your guilt. No, Miho rose to face her and she saw devastation in his eyes. You're supposed to know exactly who you married, what we are, what we carry. We won't lie to you, Tia. We won't pretend we're good men who made one mistake. We're monsters trying to become human again, and you're caught in the middle of that transformation. Then let me go, Tia said desperately. Find someone else. Someone who doesn't know, who won't see those children's faces every time she looks at you. We can't, Hyanu's voice broke. The contract is signed, the money's transferred, and more than that, you're the first person outside our family who's looked at us after hearing the truth and hasn't run screaming. You're still standing here, still talking to us. That matters more than you know. I'm not standing here by choice, Tia shot back. I'm standing here because my father is dying and you bought me with blood money. Yes, Miho agreed. That's exactly what we did. We're not asking you to forgive us or love us or even like us. We're asking you to survive this with us, to help us become something other than the men who killed those children, and in return we'll protect you and your family with everything we have. Tia's mind spun. She thought of her father's raspy laugh, her mother's gentle hands, her brother's terrible jokes. They were alive because of this contract. Safe because she'd signed away her freedom to 3 men who carried the weight of 47 graves. I need time, she said finally. You gave me a week before the consummation. I need that week to process this, all of it. Jywin nodded slowly. You'll have it, but tomorrow you meet Grandmother Kong. She's demanded an audience and we can't refuse. She'll want to see you, assess you, judge whether you're worthy of the Kong name. And if I'm not? Then the contract voids, Miho said grimly, and your father's treatment ends immediately. Grandmother doesn't bluff. Tia closed her eyes, trapped. She was so completely trapped. What does she expect from me? Respect, deference, proof that you understand the family's ways. Hyanu moved closer, his voice gentle. She'll test you, push you, try to break your composure. Don't let her. Show strength but not defiance. Show intelligence but not cunning. She respects traditional feminine virtues, grace, loyalty, fertility. Fertility, Tia repeated bitterly, because that's all I am, a womb with a contract. To her, yes, Jywin admitted. To us, you're something different, something we haven't figured out yet, but we will, we have time. 6 days, Tia corrected. 6 days until I have to let you. She couldn't finish the sentence. Miho crossed to her, moving slowly like approaching a wounded animal. He didn't touch her, but his presence was overwhelming. 6 days to build trust, 6 days to show you we're more than monsters, 6 days to prove that what happens between us doesn't have to be violence or violation. It can be a choice, even within constraint. Pretty words, Tia whispered. True words, Miho countered. Tomorrow, after you meet Grandmother, we'll talk about boundaries, about what you need, what you fear, what you absolutely won't accept, and we'll listen, that's the promise. Tia looked at each of them in turn. Miho, all controlled power and barely leashed intensity. Jywin, calculating and precise, watching her like a puzzle to solve. Hyanu, warmth and humanity in a world of violence. 3 men, one impossible situation. And her, caught in the center with no way out except through. Show me to my room, she said finally. I need to sleep or try to. You can't, Tia whispered. She'll destroy you, cut you off again, take everything. Jywin's expression was hard. Let her try. We've built our own power base over the last 12 years. We don't need her approval anymore. We thought we did, thought we needed her blessing to truly rebuild the family, but not at your expense, not like this. She's testing us, Hyanu added, his voice steady. Testing whether we've actually changed, whether we can put someone else's well-being above family pressure, whether we're still the men who calculated acceptable collateral damage and killed 47 people. Miho turned toward the house, his posture shifting into something dangerous. We failed that test once, we won't fail again, come on. They walked back into the sitting room as a united front, Tia flanked by the brothers like they were her guard instead of her captors. Grandmother Kong sat sipping tea, her expression smug, clearly expecting them to return with Tia's submission. Instead, Miho spoke in Korean, his voice ringing with authority. Tia didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone: defiance, refusal, challenge. Grandmother's face darkened, her teacup clattering against its saucer. She responded sharply, gesturing at Tia with dismissive anger. Jywin stepped forward, his words cutting and precise. More arguments, more pushback. Grandmother stood, her small frame somehow filling the room with rage, and she spat something that made even Hyanu flinch. Then Hyanu spoke, and his voice was different, softer, pleading, but firm underneath. He gestured to Tia, then to his brothers, then made a motion over his heart. Family, he was talking about family. The room fell silent. Grandmother Kong stared at her grandsons for a long moment, and Tia saw something flicker in those sharp eyes: calculation, reassessment, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of satisfaction. When Grandmother finally spoke, her voice was quieter. She addressed Tia directly in English. My grandsons have rejected my amendment. They claim your well-being is more important than my demands. They've chosen you over family tradition. Yes, Tia said, finding her voice, they have. Good. Grandmother's smile was sudden and unexpected. That was the correct answer. The pregnancy demand was a test, girl, a test to see if these 3 had actually learned something from their sins or if they would sacrifice another innocent to their ambition. The world spun, a test. Did you think I became head of this family by being stupid? Grandmother moved closer, her eyes sharp but no longer cruel. I read the contract they prepared. I saw the consummation clause, the medical verification, all designed to satisfy traditional requirements while giving you minimal dignity. I wanted to see if they would compound that violation or protect you when pushed. Miho's voice was dangerous. You manipulated us, put Tia through hell for a test. Yes, Grandmother said unapologetically, and you passed. You chose her welfare over my approval. That means you've changed. That means you might actually be capable of the redemption you seek. She turned to Tia. You're stronger than I expected. Most women would have collapsed or agreed to anything. You ran, yes, but you ran to breathe, not to escape. You came back. That takes courage. Tia's hands were shaking. I didn't come back, they brought me. But you walked in with them instead of hiding behind them. You stood here while they fought for you. That matters. Grandmother reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small box. This belonged to my mother and her mother before that, jade blessed by monks worn by every Kong matriarch for 6 generations. Inside was a bracelet, deep green jade carved with intricate symbols, gold clasps on each end. Grandmother lifted Tia's wrist and fastened it herself, the jade cool against Tia's skin. You are part of the Kong family now, Grandmother said, not because of a contract but because my grandsons chose you over tradition. They chose mercy over ambition. That makes you a real family, and a real family we protect. Her voice hardened. But understand this, girl, you wear that bracelet, you accept everything that comes with this name. The violence, the danger, the blood, you become part of our world with all its darkness. I understand, Tia said, though she wasn't sure she did. Grandmother turned to her grandsons. The original contract stands. No pregnancy demands, no timeline beyond what you all agree to, but I expect heirs eventually, when she's ready, when you've earned her trust enough that she wants to bear your children not because she's forced but because she's chosen. Her eyes glinted. And I expect you 3 to make her want it, court her, win her, prove you're worth loving. We will, Hyanu said softly. Good, now get out, I'm tired and you have a wife to actually talk to instead of negotiating over. Grandmother waved them away, then called after them, Tia, Morrison, Kong, one more thing. Tia turned. They told you about the daycare, about what they did. It wasn't a question. That guilt will drive them to be either the best men you've ever known or it will destroy them completely. Which outcome happens depends partly on you. Choose wisely what you reflect back to them. The drive back to Seoul was silent. Tia stared at the jade bracelet, turning it on her wrist, feeling the weight of 6 generations of Kong women. Murderers' wives, criminals' mothers, women who'd survived in a world of violence and somehow built families anyway. When they reached the penthouse, Miho poured drinks for everyone, whiskey neat. To pass grandmother's tests, he said with dark humor, may there be no more for a while. They drank and the alcohol burned away some of Tia's numbness. Why did you really fight her? She asked. You could have agreed, gotten what you wanted eventually. Why risk everything for someone you just met? Jywin set down his glass. Because we meant what we said. You're not just a contract, you're our chance to become something other than monsters. And monsters don't care about consent or dignity or whether the women they've bound to them are suffering. We're trying to be better than that. Trying, Tia repeated, not succeeding yet. No, Miho agreed, not yet, but we're trying, and today we chose you over power. That's a start. Hyanu moved to sit beside her, careful to leave space. The consummation clause still exists, 1 week, but after today, after you've seen us fight for you, does it feel different? Does anything feel different? Tia considered. The fear was still there, coiled in her chest, but something had shifted. They'd rejected their grandmother's demands. They'd risked everything to protect her from additional violation. That had to mean something. Different, she admitted. Not good yet, not safe, but different. Different is a start, Hyanu said gently, and we have 5 more days to get better. Tia looked at each of them, these 3 identical faces that were slowly becoming distinct people in her mind. Miho, who led with strength but fought for her dignity. Jywin, who calculated everything but chose her welfare over strategy. Hyanu, who saw her fear and met it with gentleness. Drop a comment below. Do you think Tia should trust them, or is she being manipulated? Let me know what you'd do in her position. I want to know more, Tia said finally, setting down her glass. Not about the contract or the family business, about you, who you are beyond the violence and guilt. If I'm going to, she couldn't say it. If we're going to move forward, I need to see you as people, not just monsters trying to reform. Miho exchanged glances with his brothers. What do you want to know? Everything, anything. What do you do when you're not running criminal empires? What makes you laugh? What keeps you awake besides the nightmares? Tia pulled her legs under her on the couch, the handbag rustling. I need something human to hold onto. Hyanu smiled and it transformed his face. I collect vinyl records, old jazz mostly, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Billie Holiday. There's a room upstairs that's just shelves of albums and a vintage turntable. When everything gets too heavy, I sit there and let the music remind me that beauty still exists. Tia hadn't expected that. Jazz. Our mother loved it, Hyanu explained. She was Korean-American, grew up in New York before moving back to Seoul. She'd play records while cooking and the whole house would smell like her food and sound like her music. After she died, I started collecting. It's like keeping her alive. Jywin shifted, looking uncomfortable with vulnerability but pushing through. I paint. Badly, but I paint. Abstract stuff, colors and shapes that don't mean anything to anyone else. It's the only time my brain shuts up, stops calculating angles and probabilities and just exists in the moment. And you, Tia looked at Miho. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I read poetry, Korean poets mostly, Kim So-wol Yundongju, words about loss and longing and trying to find light in darkness. It's pathetic, probably, the violent mafia boss reading sad poems at 3 in the morning. It's not pathetic, Tia said softly, it's human, that's what I needed to hear. The conversation opened something between them. They talked for hours about Tia's childhood in Houston, her father's work as a teacher before the cancer, her dreams of being a photographer before medical bills consumed everything. About the brothers' education in both Seoul and London, their complicated relationship with their father who died 5 years ago, their struggle to modernize the family business while respecting tradition. Night fell over Seoul and nobody moved to turn on more lights. In the darkness with the city glowing below them, Tia felt the first real stirring of something beyond fear, not trust yet, not affection, but curiosity, interest, the possibility of connection. The consummation, she said, and all three men went still. I need to understand exactly what you expect, what the medical verification entails, what happens after. Miho's voice was careful. The verification is an examination by a family physician the morning after, proof of virginity before, confirmation of consummation after. It's invasive and humiliating and we hate it as much as you do, but it's the price of grandmother's approval and the money that's keeping your father alive. And the act itself, Tia's voice was steadier than she felt. All three of you at once. No, Hyanu's response was immediate. Not unless you wanted that, which I can't imagine you would. We thought, separately, 3 nights or 3 different times, however you want to structure it. You choose the order, the setting, the boundaries for each encounter. Jywin added, we're brothers, but we're not performing for each other. This isn't about our pleasure or some twisted fantasy. It's about fulfilling a contract requirement while giving you as much agency as possible within an impossible situation. Tia's mind raced through scenarios, each one making her stomach twist. And if I can't, if the fear is too much and I freeze or panic? Then we stop, Miho said firmly. The contract says consummation within 1 week. It doesn't say we only get 1 attempt. If the first try doesn't work, we try again the next night, and if it never works, then we face the consequences together. You'd lose everything. We'd lose money and status, Jywin corrected. We wouldn't lose ourselves, we've already been monsters once, we won't become them again by forcing you. Tia felt tears threatening and blinked them back. I need time, the rest of tonight, tomorrow, I need to think about how this could possibly work without destroying me. Take the time, Hyanu said gently, we're not going anywhere. The next 2 days passed in strange domesticity. The brothers gave Tia space but not isolation, meals together, quiet conversations, careful respect for her boundaries. She explored the penthouse, finding Hyanu's record room and listening to Billie Holiday while watching Seoul's traffic below. She found Jywin's studio, canvases covered in violent splashes of color that somehow communicated the chaos in his mind. She found Miho's library, books of poetry in Korean and English, pages marked and annotated in his precise handwriting. She also found the security room, monitors showing every entrance, armed men at checkpoints, the reality of their dangerous world. And she found the communications center where business happened, terse phone calls in Korean, money transfers, shipment schedules for cargo she knew better than to ask about. On the 3rd day, Tia's phone rang, her mother calling from Houston. Sweetheart, your father's responding to the new treatment. The doctors say he's got a real chance now. They're talking about months, maybe years instead of weeks. Whatever you did to get this money, whatever sacrifice you made, thank you, you saved him. Tia's throat closed. I'm glad, Mom, I'm so glad. Are you okay? You sound strange, where are you? I'm safe, Tia said, which wasn't exactly a lie. I'm figuring things out, tell Dad I love him. When she ended the call, she found Miho standing in the doorway. Good news. He's responding to treatment, you bought him time, bought him life. Tia's voice cracked. That's what this is worth, that's why I'm still here. Miho crossed the room and did something unexpected. He pulled her into a hug, not sexual, not possessive, just human comfort. Tia stiffened, then slowly let herself lean into it, let herself take the comfort offered. He was warm and solid, and for a moment she let herself pretend this was normal, that she was being held by someone who cared, not someone who owned her. Your father's life has value, Miho said quietly against her hair, but so does yours, don't forget that. That evening, Tia made her decision. She found all three brothers in the living room and stood before them, her heart hammering but her voice steady. I want it to happen, the consummation, but on my terms with my rules. Name them, Jywin said immediately. Not tonight, I need one more day to prepare mentally. Tomorrow night we start. Tia's hands twisted together. Hyanu first, he's been the gentlest, the most patient. Then Jywin, then Miho, separate rooms, separate nights, you each get 1 hour, no more, and the word stop means everything stops immediately, no questions, no arguments. Agreed, all three said in unison. And I want, Tia's voice dropped to a whisper, I want it to not feel like violation. I don't know how that's possible, but I need you to try. I need to feel like a person, not just a contract obligation. Hyanu stood and approached slowly. Then tomorrow we will court you. All day we show you that you matter, that you're seen and valued. And tomorrow night when we're together it won't be about the contract. It'll be about connection, about making something beautiful in the middle of all this darkness. Can that even happen? Tia asked desperately. We'll find out together, Hyanu promised. The next morning, Tia woke to find a note slipped under her door. Elegant handwriting, Hyanu's signature at the bottom. Today is for you, let us show you who we can be. Breakfast at 9, wear something comfortable. She found a package on her dresser, soft clothes in her size, casual and expensive. Leggings, an oversized sweater, comfortable flats. They'd paid attention to what she liked, what made her feel safe. When she emerged, the penthouse had been transformed. Flowers everywhere, roses, lilies, arrangements that must have cost thousands. Soft music playing, jazz instrumentals that filled the space with warmth. The brothers waited in the dining room and they'd dressed down too. No suits, no armor, just jeans and casual shirts, looking younger and less dangerous. Good morning, Miho said, and his smile was tentative. We made breakfast. Well, we had it made, we're terrible cooks. The table was covered with options, Korean dishes, American breakfast, fresh fruit, pastries from what had to be Seoul's best bakery. This is too much, Tia said. It's not enough, Jywin countered. It'll never be enough to make up for what we're asking of you, but we're trying. They ate together and the conversation was careful but real. They asked about her photography, and Tia found herself talking about composition and light, about the way a camera could capture truth that the eye missed. Hyanu pulled out his phone and showed her his album collection digitally, explaining why certain recordings mattered. Jywin described his painting process, the meditation of color. Miho recited a poem in Korean, then translated it, words about cherry blossoms and temporary beauty. After breakfast, they took her to Hyanu's record room. He put on a Chet Baker album, the trumpet notes soft and melancholic, and they just sat there listening. No pressure, no expectations, just shared silence and music. I've been thinking about tonight, Tia said during a quiet moment, about what I need it to be. Tell me, Hyanu said, his full attention on her. I need it to be slow, I need to feel in control even when I'm vulnerable. She struggled for words. I need to know I can trust you with my body when every instinct tells me I can't trust anyone. Then we build that trust today, Hyanu said simply. Every hour from now until tonight, we show you that we listen, that we stop when you ask, that your comfort matters more than the contract. They spent the afternoon in what felt like an elaborate dance of trust building. Small touches, Hyanu's hand on her shoulder, respectful and brief. Jywin brushed her hair back when it fell in her face, his fingers gentle. Miho offering his arm when they walked through the penthouse gardens, his strength supportive rather than controlling. They asked permission for everything. Can I sit beside you? Is it okay if I touch your hand? Would you like me to give you space? The constant consent felt absurd and necessary, teaching Tia that her voice mattered, that she could say no and be heard. Evening approached too quickly. Tia felt her anxiety building, her breath shortening. Hyanu noticed immediately. We can wait another day, another week, the contract has time. No, Tia said, forcing steadiness. If I wait, the fear will only grow. I need to do this now while I still have courage. Jywin stood, then Miho and I will leave. This is between you and Hyanu tonight. We'll be in our rooms if you need anything, but otherwise you won't see us. They left, and suddenly the penthouse felt enormous and empty. Just Tia and Hyanu, the weight of what came next pressing down on them both. I've prepared the guest suite, Hyanu said quietly. Not my room, not yours, neutral territory. There's champagne if you want to calm your nerves, or tea if you prefer, candles, soft lighting. I tried to make it feel safe. Tia nodded, not trusting her voice. They walked together to the suite, and he'd been true to his word. The room glowed with candlelight, the bed covered in rose petals like some romantic movie. It should have felt cliché, but instead it felt like care. Like someone had tried very hard to make a traumatic necessity into something bearable. I'm terrified, Tia whispered. I know, Hyanu kept his distance, giving her space. I'm nervous too, I don't want to hurt you, I don't want to be another thing that takes from you instead of giving. The contract says you have to take it. The contract says consummation has to happen. It doesn't say I can't give you pleasure in the process. It doesn't say I can't make you feel worshipped instead of used. Hyanu's voice was soft but intense. Tia, I know this started as a transaction, but you're not a transaction to me anymore. You're a woman who saved her father's life through incredible sacrifice. A woman who looked at 3 killers and saw the humanity we thought we'd lost. You deserve to be treated like precious, and tonight, that's what I'm going to do. Tears spilled down Tia's cheeks. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I, not really, not in a way that matters. Hyanu finally moved closer, his hands visible and unthreatening. So we figure it out together, we go slow, we stop whenever you need, and we try to find something good in the middle of this impossible situation. He offered his hand, and after a moment, Tia took it. His palm was warm, slightly calloused. He led her to the bed and they sat on the edge, fully clothed, just breathing together. Can I kiss you? Hyanu asked. Just kiss, nothing more yet. I want to know if we have chemistry, if there's anything beyond fear. Tia's heart pounded, but she nodded. Hyanu leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. His lips met hers gently, tentatively, and Tia felt a spark of something unexpected, not passion exactly, but not revulsion either. Warmth, possibility. The kiss deepened slightly, his hand cupping her face with careful reverence. When they pulled apart, Tia was breathing hard. That wasn't terrible, she said, and Hyanu laughed, the sound easing the tension. High praise, he teased gently. Can we try again? They did, and this time Tia leaned into it, her hands finding his shoulders. The kiss grew warmer, more confident, and she felt her body responding despite her fear. Maybe this was possible, maybe she could survive this. Talk to me, Hyanu murmured against her lips. Tell me what you're feeling. Scared but less than before, and... Tia hesitated. Curious, you're gentle, I didn't expect that. I'll stay gentle, Hyanu promised. As long as you need, we have all night, Tia, there's no rush. He was true to his word. Every step was negotiated, when he helped her out of her sweater, when his hands skimmed over her skin, when clothing fell away piece by piece. He asked permission for everything, his voice a constant reassurance in the candlelit room. You're beautiful, Hyanu breathed, and the awe in his voice felt genuine. Not just physically, the strength in you, the courage to be here despite everything, that's beautiful. Make sure you're subscribed. The next part of this story reveals how their night unfolds and whether trust can really be built in such impossible circumstances. When intimacy finally happened, Hyanu kept his promise. Slow, careful, constantly checking that she was okay, Tia felt pain inevitable given everything but also tenderness. He held her through the difficult moments, whispered encouragement, made it about connection rather than conquest. Stop, Tia gasped at one point, overwhelmed. Hyanu stopped immediately, holding still. Too much. Just give me a minute, let me breathe. He did, stroking her hair, murmuring soft words until she nodded, and they continued. When it was over, Tia felt raw and emotionally exhausted, but not violated, not destroyed. She'd survived, and Hyanu had been exactly what he'd promised: gentle, patient human. He held her afterwards, not with possession but with care. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for trusting me with this, for letting me prove we're not all monsters." Tia couldn't speak past the lump in her throat, so she just held on, letting herself be held, feeling the weight of the first night complete. Morning came with soft light filtering through the curtains. Tia woke slowly, her body aching in unfamiliar ways, and found Hyanu still beside her, awake and watching her with careful concern. "How are you?" he asked quietly. "Sore, emotional, but okay." Tia sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. "I survived." "You did more than survive," Hyanu said. "You were brave, honest, you gave me a gift I didn't deserve, and I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of it." The physician arrived at 9, a stern older woman who conducted the examination with clinical efficiency. Tia endured it with gritted teeth, hating every invasive moment, but it was over quickly. "Verification complete," the doctor said. "I'll file the report with Mrs. Kong." One night down, 2 more to go. Jywin was different from Hyanu. Where Hyanu had been gentle and patient, Jywin was intense and deliberate. The second evening he prepared differently: no rose petals but books. He'd filled the room with photographs, her photographs that she'd posted online years ago, printed and displayed like an art gallery. "I wanted you to see yourself through your own lens," Jywin explained. "To remember who you were before the contract, before us. You're not just the woman we bought, you're an artist, a daughter, a fighter. I want to honor all of that." Tia walked through the makeshift gallery, tears streaming down her face as she saw her own work: street photography from Houston, portraits of her family, landscapes that had once made her feel free. "You did this for me. I wanted you to know I see you," Jywin said. "Not just your body or your obligation, I see your soul, Tia, and it's extraordinary." Their night together was different, more cerebral, more about conversation and connection before physicality. Jywin asked about each photograph, listened to her stories, made her feel like her thoughts mattered. When intimacy came, it felt less like obligation and more like choice, like she was giving something willingly rather than surrendering to force. "Guide me," Jywin whispered. "Show me what you need. This is your experience, Tia. I'm just privileged to be part of it." She did, finding power in directing him, in claiming agency even in vulnerability. When pleasure came unexpected and overwhelming, Tia gasped in shock and Jywin smiled against her skin. "You deserve to feel good," he murmured, "even in this, especially in this." The second verification was easier, the routine less shocking. 2 nights down. Miho was the leader, the strongest, and Tia had saved him for last because he intimidated her most. But on the third evening, he surprised her completely. He took her to the rooftop garden where he'd set up a telescope. "I wanted to show you something beyond our world," Miho said. "Beyond the contracts and violence and guilt, something vast and beautiful that puts everything in perspective." They looked at stars together, and Miho pointed out constellations, told her their Korean names and the myths behind them. "When I feel most monstrous," he said quietly, "I come up here and look at the universe. It reminds me how small I am, how small we all are, how much possibility exists beyond the darkness we've created." "You're trying to be poetic," Tia said, but her voice was soft. "I'm trying to be honest." Miho turned to face her. "Tonight is the last night of the contract's requirements. After this, you're free. You can stay in your room, avoid us, live your life separately until you decide what comes next. But I want you to know, if you choose to stay, if you choose us, it won't be about obligation anymore. It'll be about something real." "Real," Tia repeated. "I don't even know what that means anymore." "Neither do I," Miho admitted, "but I'd like to find out with you." Their night together was intense but not frightening. Miho gave her control in unexpected ways, let her set the pace, let her be on top, let her feel powerful instead of powerless. "You're in charge," he said, his hands steady on her hips. "Take what you need from me, Tia, use me to feel strong." She did, and the experience was transformative. Not just physical but emotional, claiming her own pleasure, her own power in a situation designed to strip both away. When it ended, Tia collapsed against Miho's chest, shaking with release and relief and the realization that she'd survived all 3 nights. The contract was fulfilled. "It's done," she whispered. "We did it." "No," Miho said, holding her close. "You did it. You survived what we asked of you and came out stronger. That's all you, Tia." The final verification came and went. The physician submitted her report, and within hours a message arrived from Grandmother Kong: contract obligations satisfied. Well done, now the real work begins, building a marriage worth having. Tia spent the next week in a strange limbo. The pressure was gone, but she didn't know what came next. The brothers gave her space, respected her boundaries, but she felt their presence constantly, protective, attentive, waiting for her to decide what she wanted. Then her phone rang at 3 in the morning, unknown number. Jywin answered it from the security room, his face going pale as he listened. He found Tia immediately. "Get dressed, we have a situation." In the living room, Miho held a photograph, his knuckles white. He handed it to Tia without speaking. Her mother, outside their Houston home, unaware of the camera, red crosshairs drawn over her face in digital ink. A message on the back: "The Choi family sends its regards." Ice flooded Tia's veins. They know about her, they're threatening her. "They're threatening your entire family," Jywin said grimly. "This is their response to us absorbing the territory they lost last month. They can't touch us directly, so they go after what we care about." "What we care about?" Miho corrected, his voice deadly calm. "Tia is ours, her family is under our protection. The Choi family just made a fatal mistake." "What are you going to do?" Tia asked, though she already knew. Miho's eyes were cold. "What we do best, we're going to eliminate the threat completely. Every Choi soldier, every lieutenant, every person who knew about this threat and didn't stop it, we're going to make them extinct." "That's 17 people," Hyanu said quietly, "maybe more." "I don't care if it's 70, Miho snapped. "Nobody threatens our family and lives." Tia should have been horrified. She should have protested, refused, drawn a moral line. But the thought of her mother lying dead, her father dying because his treatment got interrupted by violence, her brother's life destroyed, it burned away every civilized impulse. "Do it," she heard herself say. "Protect them, whatever it takes." The brothers moved with terrifying efficiency. Phone calls in rapid Korean, weapons retrieved from hidden safes, tactical gear replacing casual clothes. They transformed from the men who'd courted her into the monsters they'd always been, and Tia realized she was seeing their true nature, not the gentleness they'd shown her but the violence that kept them powerful. "We'll have your family relocated by dawn," Jywin said, strapping on a shoulder holster. "Safe house in California, new identities if necessary, they'll never be vulnerable again." "How long will this take?" Tia asked. Miho's smile was blade sharp. "The Choi family will be gone by sunrise. We've been planning this contingency for months. They just gave us the excuse we needed." They left in 3 black SUVs, armed men Tia had never seen filling the vehicles. She watched from the penthouse windows as Seoul's underworld went to war, and she felt nothing but grim satisfaction. These were her husbands now, her protectors, and they were doing what she'd bought with her body, keeping her family safe. Drop a comment and let me know, is Tia becoming one of them, or has she always had this darkness inside? Hit like if you're Team Kong family all the way. The sun rose over a changed landscape. News reports mentioned a massive fire at a Choi family warehouse, a suspicious accident involving multiple vehicles, and a building collapse in Gangnam. Nothing explicit, nothing traceable, but Tia knew. She felt it in her bones. The brothers returned at 7 in the morning, exhausted and splattered with what might have been blood or might have been soot. Miho came to her directly. "It's done. 17 confirmed eliminations. Your family is safe. They're already in the California house. Your father's treatment transferred to UCLA Medical. Nobody will touch them, ever." Tia should have felt something: horror, guilt, complicity. Instead, she felt only relief. "Thank you," she said, and meant it. "Don't thank us for being monsters," Hyanu said wearily. "That's not who we want to be for you." "You're not monsters," Tia said, surprising herself. "You're my family. Protecting family is what families do, even when it's ugly." Something shifted in that moment. The contract had been fulfilled, the threats eliminated, and Tia realized she'd made a choice without even knowing it. She wasn't leaving. She wasn't running. She was staying with these 3 broken, violent, devoted men who'd bought her with blood money and somehow become hers. "I need to tell you something," Tia said. They all looked at her, exhausted and waiting. "The contract said it would be indefinitely unless I chose to leave. I'm choosing to stay, not because I have to, because I want to, because you've shown me that monsters can become men and I want to see what we can build together." The relief on their faces was palpable. Miho pulled her into his arms and she let herself be held by all three of them, a tangle of bodies and trust in something that might actually be love starting to grow. 6 months later, Tia stood in the penthouse bathroom staring at a positive pregnancy test. Her hand shook as she touched her stomach, feeling the impossible reality. Life growing inside her, their child, the heir grandmother Kong had wanted but created through choice, not coercion. She found the brothers in Hyanu's record room sharing whiskey and exhaustion after a long day. They looked up when she entered and she held up the test without speaking. The room exploded into joy. Hyanu swept her up, spinning her carefully. Jywin was actually crying, tears streaming down his stoic face. Miho dropped to his knees in front of her, pressing his forehead to her still flat stomach with something like reverence. "Our child," he whispered, "our redemption." "No," Tia said firmly, running her fingers through his hair. "Not redemption. Redemption isn't something a baby can give you. This is just love, new life born from whatever we've become together." Grandmother Kong received the news with quiet satisfaction, already planning for the great-grandchild who would inherit an empire. But she pulled Tia aside at the family dinner announcing the pregnancy and said, "You've done well, child. You've turned monsters into men. That's harder than bearing heirs." "They turned themselves in," Tia corrected. "I just gave them a reason." "That's what good wives do," Grandmother said. "We give them reasons to be better than they are. Welcome to the Kong family, Tia, truly welcome." That night, lying between Hyanu and Miho with Jywin's hand resting on her stomach from his position at the edge of the bed, Tia felt something she hadn't felt in months: peace. Not happiness exactly, not yet, but peace, acceptance of who she'd become, who they'd become together. "I love you," she said into the darkness, not specifying which of them. "All of you. I don't know when it happened or how, but I do." "We know," Miho said softly. "We've loved you since you refused to break. Since you looked at our worst selves and stayed anyway." "That's not love," Tia said. "That's trauma bonding." "Maybe," Hyanu agreed, "but maybe trauma bonding becomes love when you choose it every day anyway. When you wake up and decide that this broken, complicated thing is worth keeping." "Is it worth keeping?" Tia asked. 3 voices answered in unison, "Yes." Outside, Seoul glittered in the night, a city of millions unaware of the small family being built in a penthouse tower. A family born from desperation and violence and impossible choices, but a family nonetheless. Tia touched the jade bracelet on her wrist, felt the baby growing inside her, and thought about the future they'd create, not perfect, never perfect, but theirs. The contract that had brought them together was filed away and forgotten. What they had now was something deeper: choice sustained through time, trust earned through action, love built from the ruins of everything they'd sacrificed to survive. It wasn't the story Tia would have chosen, but it was hers, and that made it precious. If you made it to the end, you're part of the Kong family now. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and tell me in the comments, would you have stayed or run? What happens next for Tia and the brothers? Your thoughts matter, and I read every single comment. Thanks for being here. See you in the next story.